Okay, we're live. All righty. So, hello, ABSW members and friends. Thank you all for joining us this evening for our discussion on mental health awareness conversations with Black social workers. Before I introduce my friends, we all wanted to give a shout out to all graduates of 2020, but especially to Howard University School of Social Work. So, congratulations to you all. We are proud of you and we welcome you to the real world. I am Christy Love, member and corresponding secretary for the Association of Black Social Workers Metro DC chapter under the direction of Anj, who is our president. Since April, we have held Black Social Workers Speak Wednesdays town halls. And during May, Mental Health Awareness Month, we wanted to continue the conversation and share resources and have fun and informative dialogue. All right, let's get started. So Sincere Cook. Sincere is a licensed social worker in the District of Columbia, a native New Yorker, where he attended the university at Albany State University of New York, where he received a Bachelor's of Arts with a major in African Studies and a minor in English. He went on to create his own organization called Shop Talk, which focused on youth empowerment, community organizing, and social justice at area high schools and colleges in upstate New York area. He later pursued graduate studies at Howard University School of Social Work. While at Howard, he fell in love with the culture of the nation's capital. Sincere prefers an African-centered approach in his practice of working with children and youth in educational settings, giving the unique historical issues confronting children, ranging from trauma, misdiagnosis, and the overgeneralization and criminalization of Black male behavior, both in schools and in the wider society. Lastly, Sincere is a single father and spends his spare time practicing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, yoga, and teaching Pilates in Washington, D.C. metro area. Sincere, wave at the people.
What's happening?
Next, we have Dion Caldwell. She is a licensed social worker in both Maryland and the District of Columbia. Originally from Hartford, Connecticut, Dion earned her BSW at Southern Connecticut State University, then relocated to DC to obtain her master's in social work from the Mecca, Howard University. Dion has over 10 years of experience as a social worker, mostly in foster care and education. She seeks to provide clients with an opportunity to learn about themselves and empower clients to be an active change agent in their lives. Wave, Dion.
Hello.
Then we have, I'm just trying to share this with folks. Then we have Mike King. Mike King is an educator and Eagle Scout with 16 years of experience as a licensed social worker in Maryland and in DC in school and community settings. He enjoys hiking, yoga, voiceovers, and soca music. One of his favorite quotes is from Frederick Douglass. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Give him a wave, King. And last but definitely not least, Fallon Jones. Jones is originally from Lakewood, California, and received both her bachelor's degree and master's degree from Howard University. Since receiving her master's in social work from Howard University, she has had the opportunity to work and connect with many people and agencies within the DMV. Jones has worked for both Maya Angelou Public Charter School as well as Cesar Chavez Public Charter School as a school social worker. In her current role with DCPS, Jones serves as a cultural and climate specialist where she is able to assess academic environments to strengthen the day-to-day function to promote social emotional learning and build student voice and sense of belonging. Some of her professional experiences include working part-time as a therapist, sexual health education, crisis intervention specialist for victims of sexual assault, and most recently, a professor at Howard University School of Social Work, where she teaches a course in interventions. Jones hopes to continue helping others and shape young minds in the field. All righty. Is that good, y'all? That describes y'all pretty much?
Excellent.
Good job.
Cool beans. All right. So we're just gonna get right into it. And most of it, like you can jump in whenever you can. Please tell us why. Well, first, did y'all notice all of us are Howard University School of Social Work graduates? So yay,
HU.
HU.
You know.
No.
HU.
Yeah, you know.
All right, y'all. So right. Do they still do that?
My folks do.
We're gonna bring it back. We'll bring it back.
All right. So kind of last week I did like a double Dutch thing. You can go, whoever wants to go first. I'll just pick Sincere. Sincere, why did you choose social work?
So I chose social work because I have a passion for working with Black people. So on my mom's side of the family, there's a bunch of human services professionals. So my mom was a licensed daycare provider. My aunts were nurses. And on my dad's side, my uncle had a rites of passage program in Baltimore. So social work is like human services is very much a part of my family. So social work kind of like spoke to me as growing up, being exposed to all of other things that are to learn about people, culture, social justice, things of that nature. So
awesome. Dion.
So I decided to become a social worker because I came from a broken family. Unfortunately, my parents divorced when I was younger, and I just said, I wanted to vow to help families through difficult situations. And so initially, I wanted to do a JD and MSW program, but then I ended up, and I was going to do that at UConn, but then I ended up going to say, I need to just go away. So I came to Howard, and it was a really great experience.
Good. Thank you. Miss Jones.
I actually fell into social work by accident. Everybody that knows me knows that I had no intentions on being a social worker. I actually came out of undergrad wanting to be a probation officer back in California. And I did some research, and my mom and I was talking, and we kind of thought about the idea of, what additional education do I need to make me the best probation officer? And then as I was doing more research, it's like, a lot of Black and brown people are in the system, and how can I intercept them before they even get to the system? And so that's where social work came about. I actually spent my first internship at Howard University at Maya Angelou Public Charter School. I kicked and screamed and said that I had no intentions on wanting to be in education, put me in the courts, and actually my mentor, Dr. Davis at Howard University Field Education, she actually helped me in my trajectory towards social work, being able to work with adjudicated youth in the educational setting. So fell into it by accident and never left.
And here you are. Thank you. Mike King, why social work?
Well, so I chose social work because I wanted to transform lives, right? At the time when I was introduced to social work, I was a certified teacher in a school called the Children's Guild, which is like a level 5 school with emotionally disturbed coding. And I first found out about the profession and talking to my principal at the time, and she recommended me for that. And I was like, hey, I saw what they were doing, working with the youth in small groups, individual one-on-one settings, also, running some parent meetings. So I thought that was a great way to utilize my empathy and passion to help people.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for that. One, if y'all see, just want to say, if you have a question or a comment, go ahead. It's a lot of HU folks in the house. So hey to you all. Sincere, if you see somebody said, we salute you for all your work, and somebody said, hey to you, Fallon. So moving on, because social work is so diverse, we can use our degrees in so many ways. Does anybody want to touch on how are you using your degree at this very moment? Jump on in.
Jump. Well, right now for me, I'm using it to develop a supervision program. So I mentioned earlier about being a phys ed teacher. So that's my passion as well, fitness. And so I'm using it right now to develop a fitness, social, emotional wellness program that can help youth and help men work on personal development. So that's how I'm using it now. It was started in direct service side, now moving to a macro side.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So one of the ways that I use my degree is developing boys into men. So I do a lot of rites of passage work. and also developing men into better men, right? So I'm a part of a men's collective out of Baltimore. So as a part of me going through that process, I help develop men to be better men, right? And we have weekly conversations, we have check-ins, things of that nature. So that's one of the ways that I use my social work degree.
Awesome. Thank you, Dion. Did you want to go?
Sure. Currently, I am a social worker at a high school in DC, and my primary focus is students with special needs. So they have a learning disability or emotional disability, and basically just teaching them ways to, self-regulate and not let their emotional difficulties impact their learning environment. So just kind of teaching them strategies how to still be successful and overcome whatever obstacle might they be in.
Cool, thank you, Jones. I know for you, you're doing SEL, and that's really important. Can you kind of talk about social emotional learning and like your role in the school system?
Absolutely. So social emotional learning in DC, we're just really trying to focus on making each and every student a positive citizen and being able to tap into their emotional literacy. And using the 5 SEL components, of responsible decision making, self-management, responsible relationship skills. We're really trying to teach students and adults to name their emotions, and then also have resources within the school so each person in the building can build those skills and be partners to one another. So with SEL in the district, one of my roles is a school culture and climate specialist, and that's a long, fun title to be able to say that I'm somebody, I'm a group of maybe about 10 people, amazing people in the district that we actually go into school buildings and we assess for not just the physical safety of the building, but the emotional safety. Our room's therapeutic. How can we work more with teachers to make sure that they're recognizing triggers? How can we make sure that we're working with adults to make sure that they understand their own triggers so that they're not putting those onto students? So we're really just assessing the educational environment to make sure that it is the best and most positive experience so students can learn. So that's the DCPS side. And then the love of my life currently is working with Howard University students in the School of Social Work. I teach methods. And so every student that I've come across up until this point between methods and field, it has just been a blessing because I really am trying to help students understand what the field is like currently, and then also maybe some of the mistakes that I made so that they potentially won't make them as they come into the field as new social workers.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I know for SEL, for DCPS, it's grown a lot. Just for our viewers, King and Jones and I, we worked together at Maya Angelou Public Charter School. So that's where I met them. And I feel like towards the end, we were starting to work on that SEL piece. And then for Sincere, we met through Association of Black Social Workers. And then, of course, Dion, I met her first because we went to school together at Howard. We won't tell the year right now. But let's really talk about mental health, because that's why we're really here, mental health awareness. When people say break the stigma, end it, what does that really mean to you? Like, what does it mean, and how can social workers break the stigma about mental health? King, I'm gonna call on you.
Well, I believe that mental health and mental health services can be normalized to the point where it's a part of people's support system. So the support system in order to live their best lives. I think that a lot of people have friends and you have family, and that's great. And there's social support, and there's all times where you may need counseling support just to move through the life's tough times. Some challenging times to help emotional growth, social growth in order to be healthy, especially in the times of socioeconomic hardships a lot of people face now, with these of the COVID and, with the unemployment stats just reaching levels of depression, and you got to think in our case, one of the things I loved about Howard attending there is the Black perspective.
Right.
We just, that's what we do. That's who we serve first, and think about the numbers of unemployment. I was just reading something saying that out of like the 33 million or so, like 25% of them are Black people.
Right.
So when economic times are hard, like they say, it hits our community like a tsunami. In white America, drizzling white America is a tsunami in Black America.
Absolutely. Dion, can you kind of talk about how social workers in the school are breaking the stigma about seeing a social worker, seeing a counselor? How do y'all break the stigma in your school?
So really just allowing students to be independent and learning how to, like Fallon was saying, identify those feelings and emotions, and letting them know that, this is what counseling is about. It's bettering yourself and being vulnerable and open. A lot of times students feel like it's a weakness that they are showing that they need help. But I keep the main thing that I try to encourage them and let them know is that everybody needs help. That's what we're all here for. No one can do anything by themselves. And so just trying to help them know that getting help is helping yourself, and that is nothing wrong with that.
Good. Sincere, I know one of the things you do, you work with younger people, like you get the ones before Jones, King, and Dion, before they get them. Are you noticing mental health issues and concerns in the children and both the parents? Like, how do you address it with the little ones?
So I think the principals at the schools are more familiar and supportive of mental health services for young people, right? That's where it starts at, right? So teachers see the need for it, principals see the need for it, and they're connecting families to mental health services, which is myself and school social workers, psychologists, things of that nature. So it starts with the principals and the rest of the staff at the school. So that's really like the first introduction for parents and for families. So.
Gotcha. Jones, did you want to kind of touch on it with SEL? Like, you see it, you're helping adults, you're helping the teachers and the children, and you're giving them guidelines. Talk about how your department is breaking the stigma of mental health.
Yeah, I think it's just really going back to the idea of learning yourself, like self-awareness, right? And as Dion said, just understanding the idea that I need help and it's okay. And when you ask the question, like, how are you? Really being truthful with yourself about your emotions, and it being okay if you're not feeling your best, or it being okay if you need help. And then, as King said, you're normalizing this idea of everybody needs something. Everybody might need a break. Everybody might need a little bit of extra assistance. So being able to name those emotions, and then even with that, make connections with other people so that you're building the community and going back to that normalization of it's okay to reach out for help. And it's okay for everybody to share their emotion. And it's not something that is hush hush, right? It's normal that people go to therapy. It's even in some spaces, celebrate it, like, hey, I'll speak personally. Me and my girlfriends, this idea of, hey, you know what? Like, I actually got a therapist and I went to therapy, and, sharing my story and them sharing theirs. I think as you normalize it with your own personal group and you can share those individual stories within each setting, I think it goes back to that normalization piece. And folks being like, they look like me and they go to therapy and they're able to talk about it. So,
right. Show of hands, guys, who goes to therapy? So we are breaking the stigma. We're going to seek counseling, therapists. I know that I seek Black therapists, social workers, counselors. So it's important to know that we're getting it too. So we can also help them. Just pause a little bit. Brother Salim said, peace to everybody, and to Sincere. Jones, your students are in the house speaking to you, saying, hey. Ayo is a recent graduate. Congratulations to you. And she definitely said you have been, you've played a large role in her educational and professional development. So awesome. And again, family that are watching, if you have a question or a comment, go ahead and do that in the comments. We can see and respond. And so with that, just kind of still talking about mental health, how are y'all really doing during this quarantine? Like, how are you doing? And just briefly, everybody, Sincere, we can start with you. How you doing?
I mean, it's been tough days at times. I think I was sharing earlier with the group. So it's been a transition to telework, right? And the expectations and responsibilities are more, right? So what I find myself doing is setting a schedule, but in that schedule, taking lots of breaks, right? And those breaks look like movement, exercise. It looks like going for walks. It looks like taking my phone for walks, doing meetings, things that nature. So I find myself on a schedule, but yet taking breaks when I need to. Checking in with coworkers is always a good thing for me, right? And they always like call. If I don't call them, they're calling me to see what's up. Music is like my second best friend now, right? So living alone, I'm playing music throughout the course of the day. I'm moving, I'm jamming, right? And then I take time to take walks, things that nature. So it's been a transition. Some days are better than others, and some days I'm just like I'm very patient with myself as well, right? So I don't get hard on myself, like, oh man, I didn't get outside today, or I didn't do this, right? I understand that sometimes work gets the best of me, but I'm also very patient in general with myself.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. We have to take care of ourselves. King, what we talked about, well, in your bio, you like to hike and you do yoga. Like, what are you doing to take care of yourself during during quarantine?
Well, during this time, it's actually, as a social worker, I wear many hats, right? So when I'm wearing my physical education teacher hat, the quarantine time has helped me really improve my practice in terms of recording fitness lessons, engaging students through and student parents through the Google Classroom. So I have a little setup down here where actually I put the light on, record, body weight activities. I create forms to collect data about fitness knowledge, helping kids learn that way. I also use yoga has really helped me a lot. It helps.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man.
That's what's up.
Yeah, I just started, and actually during this quarantine time, I've actually had opportunity to engage in it more. But what I love about it is like the breathing helps. The breathing practice, poses, just trust. Working on getting strong and flexible. But it also helps to the peaceful in terms of being mindful with the present in the here and now, and not letting a crisis overtake me, but being productive. So that, and lifting weights, going for a walk outside around the way, those things help me right now.
Cool.
I just want to say, Black men do yoga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Black men do yoga. Right. Yes, y'all do. Right. Dion, how are you doing during quarantine?
I am, managing, like everyone has said, you got to take it one day at a time. Some days is really, really good and you're fine. And the other days you're like, this sucks. So just kind of being aware and present with that. I'm actually doing a 30 run in 30 days challenge. Well, I'm doing a little bit of running, a little bit of walking. But that's just something that I'm using to kind of motivate myself. So just getting outside, getting some fresh air. Music, some gospel music, R&B, that really helps me. And really sometimes just unplugging, sitting in silence is golden. So those are some things that I really like to do to kind of get myself together. But I think I'm doing pretty good. I am an extrovert. I do miss hugging people. I do miss, being face to face with my students and families. But I am definitely managing and doing a lot of Zoom, Skype, and all kinds of things. I don't have iPhone, so I'm not FaceTiming anybody. But that's definitely something that I'm using to kind of keep myself and my spirits up.
Girl, you can FaceTime on Duo. Download Duo. I have an Android.
No, I'm fine with it. It's the iPhone users that.
Right. Jones, you kind of talked about it, Jones, but like, how are you checking with your friends? But how are you doing?
I'm okay, and it's interesting because I think during this time, like, people look at you crazy and be like, are you really okay? But like, I think that working with SEL for quite some time, something that I know about myself is that I think I have a great pulse on my own self-awareness. As Dion said, like, I have moments of like, this is whack. But I also know myself well enough to know that I'm somebody that I need exercise. I need sunlight. I need sleep, and so me being able to keep a radar on those things has been able to be effective in me just being okay, and then even during this time, it's like, trying to pick a goal or things that I want to like knock off the list that I have more than time to do, whether it be cooking or whether it be like binging a Netflix show and being okay with it. Like, I had to tell myself, the other night, like a good friend of mine made some sweets, and I drove 20 minutes for a slice of cake. And I'm like, that's helping me right now because I like sweets and I need to get outside. So I think a lot of what's been making me okay is normalizing things for myself, and finding a new normal during this time. And right now, it is normal for me to drive to go get some food because I just I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with that. So I'm all right.
I was going to say also, I think using this time to build and connect with family, right? So there's no excuse now. People are no longer busy, right? People are normally at home and they may be on a Zoom call or what have you, but you can respond, you can text people. They're more accessible now. So it's like no excuse. So I'm also using this time to build and mend bridges, right, with people and connections. So, this is the perfect time for that, especially for Black people, right? Like we all have like some nuances and issues in our families. Now's the time to fully address those. So I find myself doing Zoom calls with my family once a week, right? Which is great because we get to see each other and have fun and just be with each other, right? So that's just a great opportunity, and this is the time to do it. So,
awesome.
If I can, I think the last thing that I would say is when you ask like how I'm doing, I think something that I'm trying to do, making the connection with Sincere, is make connections with folks in my school buildings and people in my life that have. That I have great relationships with. So even though I am seeing you during a Zoom call, like what is one thing that I can do for somebody during the week, to make them feel special, whether it be mailing them like a handwritten card or putting like giving them a love drop or like something like that. So like, can I take the time in whatever mental space that I'm in to do something nice and extend that greatness and gratitude towards somebody else has been helpful for me as well.
Facts.
That's awesome. That's good. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about friendships and things like that. And one of the suggestions was write a note, like be a pen pal again. Do that. Go get your sweets. And then just for me, just to share, I've dealt with a little anxiety a little bit. Like it becomes a lot. And some days we don't leave the house at all. And some days we do. So it's just cool. Thank y'all for being transparent on that. I did want to say, one of our members, Ms. Karen, said, Dion, this is for you. She encouraged you to use a weighted blanket for a hug. And then back on the other one, I just want to share a little comments because people are here. I know Quinn talked about it happens in waves for her. Some days are better than others. Erica talked about not going to every Zoom party or meeting, and it's okay to say no. And that's important that we understand that. Just want to read something right quick. Sincere, I don't know if you can see the note, Sincere, but this person says Sincere has been instrumental to the growth and development of the youth, not just in DC, anywhere he has seen and heard. He truly shows interest in the conditions of the young, and he motivates others to care, share, and add on to uplifting kids and with confidence and focus. So again, people are here and they're watching, and we're getting shout outs. Dion, Quinn said, hey. So here's it's two questions actually that our viewers have asked. Let me go back to it. Somebody was asking about reality shows, and so they said, I wonder what y'all's thoughts are about reality shows depiction of the celebrities doing 1 or 2 sessions, and is that valuable for check-ins? Like, do y'all think it's okay to do like a check-in, or should we have regular counselors or therapists? And just 1 or 2 people answer that. Should it be 2, I'm good, or let me have a counselor on a regular basis?
Wow. Yeah. I think there's things that other variables that play into it. Particularly, it depends on what you're working on. If you need someone more in like the here and now to kind of help you navigate, then maybe just a short-term therapeutic approaches work for you. But if you like someone that's working on like attachment styles, some more long-term things that therapy, trying to heal, go from partial to whole, then, having an ongoing regular therapist that you work with can be a part of your self-improvement plan,
Gotcha.
Yeah, I would say that the 1 or 2 is more like for maintenance. If you have already established, some type of therapy sessions and you're going in for maintenance. So every now and then just to check in, but it is obviously recommended to have something that is more long-standing and something that is substantial where you can really dive into, because a lot of times it's so much layers that you have to get to. Maintenance would be, just those 1 or 2 check-ins, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
I think it takes more than 1 or 2 sessions to build relationships.
Okay.
Right. So oftentimes what we see on television is the shortened version of what it looks like. Right. Yeah. So it's not a realistic idea of what therapy actually looks like in the long run. So
true.
Gotcha. That's very true. It's not much we can get done in 2 sessions.
A lot is edited.
Right.
Right.
I want to give a shout out to Dr. Carlene Reed, who's with us. She is actually running for school board member in Ward 8. So if you're a Ward 8 resident and you're a registered voter, I think today is the last day to be registered. Make sure you do that. And again, and Salim Adolfo, who is running for re-election for commissioner in Ward 8. Salim, you might want to put which 8C. He's my commissioner. I'll say that. Dr. Jimmy Wilson, guys, he is a member of ABSW Metro DC chapter. He wants to know, and I want to kind of say, Sincere and King, can y'all touch on this? Can y'all talk about therapy from an Afrocentric perspective and how it's more beneficial for African Americans who are seeking mental health treatment? Why is the Afrocentric perspective more beneficial for us?
So I think one of the reasons why it gets away from the European Western views, right? So oftentimes people are looking for something alternative, right? And it introduces an African-centered perspective for those who are interested in that way of being, right? So oftentimes we try different things that may not work, but we're constantly searching and seeking for something else. So the African-centered perspective allows that, and it further deepens the connection, right? So when you walk into therapy, right, you get a chance to connect with someone who looks like you and is relating to you on a different level, right? So you feel that connection, and the trust is different, right? Mm-hmm. So people can oftentimes relate to what you're going through, and that just deepens the connection. So that's what I think the African-centered perspective brings for a lot of people.
King, thank you, Sincere.
Yeah, that's it's not much meat left on that bone after that one. No, but you feel comfortable working and opening up to someone that looks like you, to especially from a male perspective too, and therapists can help, the males that may be dealing with, attachment issues or attachment styles, father absenteeism, relationships, so I think that it's very important to have someone that looks like you, even though there's very few and far in between, but it's very important to have that connection.
Yeah. I think it's more now, like it's therapyforblackgirls.com. I think that's it. I know that I specifically search for a Black therapist, and so just know that there is more are coming. And so just by show of thumbs up for Dion and Jones, do y'all think the Afrocentric or seeking out Black therapists are important for us? Cool. Another shout out that I just want to, just for information sharing.
Can I just jump in there real quick? I think it's also important to have Black male therapists, right? So oftentimes we don't see that, and it actually helps break the stigma, right? So Black men are more likely to go into therapy when they see other Black men as their therapists, right? Yeah. So I think those are important.
That's good. Thank you. I keep kind of giving the sidebar shout out because I want us to, I hope everybody did their census. You still have time to do the census 2020. And Dr. Reed also reminded me, just so you know, if you want to request mail-in ballots, it's www.vote4dc.com. All right, y'all. Can we talk about COVID for real? No, you know what? I want to talk about Aubrey. I want to talk about Ahmaud Arbery, who was murdered in Georgia in February, right? It was in February, and we're just now hearing about it because they didn't arrest them. One thing, why do you think we, the Black community, why do we get behind this social injustice more than others? Why does this one bother us? Incidents like that, why does it bother us so much, and how does that affect our mental health? Dion, can you speak about that a little bit? Just how that situation, him being a jogger, and why do we get behind those situations versus other Black injustices?
I mean, unfortunately, I feel like sometimes we're reactive. After something happens, then there's, and then it's brought to the forefront, then we respond instead of there's a lot of things that we could be doing, in advance, maybe not for, that particular situation. That was just unfortunate. But unfortunately, I feel like sometimes we really do wait to the last minute or to just have a reactionary response instead of, you know, trying to do things in a different way. I did go out and I did jog. I feel like it's important for us to share these stories so that it brings awareness to people. There's a lot of things that, a lot of people feel like we have moved on. We have, done a lot of things, a lot of progression. And there is still a lot of, problems in this country with race relations, to be honest. So, just really trying to bring that awareness to people so that they could, make some changes by doing the voting in their local voting so that, a lot of people can make some changes in that way. It starts right there locally and then it just goes up. So, we all have to do our part and try to not wait until something happens, but be more preventative, and that's voting for our officials that are local.
Definitely voting. Fallon, I kind of want to ask you a different question. I know you ran, you jogged in support of that. What is your response when people say, well, what about Black on Black crime? Like, what is your response to that one?
I would say that there's crime everywhere, right? And so to just, I want to say, focus on Black crime, as normal as that might sound, I think that that's unfair. I think for this particular Ahmaud situation, with me being a runner, sometimes I think that although we might be reactive to things, I feel like we might be in the mindset of this cape, this imaginary cape, like it doesn't hit until it hits home for me. And so it might be that, I am, or you're a part of a running community and it could have been you, or that person that that likes to run, that could have been you. And that is your pinch or the fire under your behind to start to get moving about things that are regarding social injustice. So I'm not always going to say that, and I know that wasn't the first part of your question, but I'm kind of going to beyond. I think sometimes you might need a fire starter under you to get upset, because I think in the community, so many things happen to everyone that you get tired, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes you're at the forefront all the time and you're continuing to fight, and then you get tired, and then something else has to happen that is normal for your life. Something has to happen that you find peace in, right? So for me, I find peace in running. I find peace in exercising. Some people find peace in their homes, in the bed, And so in cases like that, it's like the things that bring me joy, I can't even do those things. And so until it attacks, in certain cases, until it attacks the things that I love or that I enjoy in safe spaces, I think that is the reason potentially that some people might hold back a little bit. And that's not to say that people don't care, but I do feel like, again, there's injustice everywhere. There's white on white crime, Hispanic on Hispanic crime. So to just depict, what about Black on Black crime, I really think that gets away from the issues amongst all races. But yeah, I think when you're thinking about your safe space and the things that bring you joy, when those things get attacked, specifically because of race or specifically because of injustice or people not naming their own mistakes, I think that also adds to you being threatened and you being tired and you feeling like, what else? Like, where else can't I go? What else can't I do? Where else can't I lay my head? Or why can't my car break down on the side of the road?
Yeah, thank you for that. We are tired, and yeah, it's so much. And so we really get behind those things. King and Sincere, I definitely want y'all to talk about it. But I do want to ask, as Black men, like, how does this make you feel? And what are your thoughts when people say, well, he had on khakis? Okay, I literally have seen people in Southeast running. They're working out, but they don't have on workout clothes. But what are y'all's thoughts about this situation? And
I just wanted to touch bases on when people say, well, there's Black on Black crime. That's a diversion tactic. And I agree with the sister. That's a diversion tactic to not address the issue. right? There's a video footage that we have of 2 white men engaged in killing an innocent black man, right? So that's the evidence right there. But the reality is that Black people in this country are dealing with generational trauma, right? And this is why we get triggered by the events that we see on television, right? And oftentimes that generational trauma is unresolved, right? So when we see those things, we feel it in ourselves and our soul, right? Because there's a connection that we have to other people that look like us, right? Despite what these Europeans want to teach us, we feel that connection, right? So when we see these incidents or when we read about them, we get touched by that, right? And that's the reality. So I think the incident with the brother running is an opportunity for us to organize, right? Kwame Ture said it best: organize, 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 right? So I recently heard that the new Black Panther Party is down in Georgia, in front of the individual's house who recorded the incident, right? We need to continue these type of organizations. We need to join organizations that are going to help us fight social justice, like NABSW, like other community organizations, right? We need to get organized so that we're not reacting, but we're ready for incidents like this happen, right?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
It's another reminder that how the black people are under attack, and it's another reminder of the wounds and the tragedies that happened from Emmett Till to Amadou Diallo, how to Trayvon Martin. It's just it makes me angry. It makes me always want to. It's another reminder how we always must ring the alarm and always be up in the face. But just like Frederick Douglass' statement, if there's no, it gets me so mad that it's words.
That's okay.
But we gotta keep fighting against the social injustice, against the institutional racism within law enforcement, within public policy. Like Sincere and Fallon and Dion was saying, organizing to the point where we need to organize political. We need to organize within our family. Make sure you're personally a part of the solution. And helping other people whose circle that you influence. Yeah.
So I want to say something else too. I think this is also an opportunity. Right, we're dealing with being at home and quarantining. But at the first opportunity that we get, we need to teach our children self-defense, right? We need to really look at that, right? We need to explore that. Like basketball and football are important, right? Those team sports are important, but self-defense is going to keep you alive, right? And I think this is a great opportunity to help organize those type of activities in our communities, whether it's boxing, whether it's karate, whether it's jiu-jitsu, whether it's Krav Maga. All of the martial arts that we have out here, Sanukish, Jiu-Jitsu, right? We have to organize and prepare our children better for the future.
Yeah, and you can't wait. You can't wait until something happens because clearly it's not going to stop happening. So you just have to keep pushing and keep doing whatever you can. You cannot wait until something happens. It has not stopped happening, to be honest. And so this is just a chance for us to, it does open your eyes and it gets you mad and it gets you riled up. But those are the things that push forward the movement of, saving ourselves because we have to. They're clearly not, taking our lives into consideration. So we have to be able to, push for it with that and not wait until something is actually going on.
Right. Y'all are saying a lot. Vote locally. Get involved in some organizations, Association of Black Social Workers, NBUF, National Black United Front. And the thing about we all have somewhat different missions, but if we come together and because we're all trying to fight a common goal, definitely martial arts, self-defense, and everything that you all are saying, it's true. We need it, and we really have to respond. Somebody asked, what is an effective way to be taught self-defense without seeming as a target? It's a good question.
I think you have to find a school. First of all, you have to identify martial arts that you're interested in, right? And then you have to find a school that teaches that, right? So there are places where you can practice and learn more about martial arts in a safe way, right? Now, I'm not encouraging anyone to go out and attack anyone. All I'm saying is if someone puts their hand on you, you have a right to defend yourself.
Self-defense.
Right. And I think we oftentimes live in a society when we see Black people defending themselves, there's something wrong with them. And this goes back to the whole mental health piece, right? There's something wrong with them when they defend themselves. There's nothing wrong with defending yourself when you are attacked, right? And there's nothing wrong with teaching other people to defend themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to break that stigma right there.
Right. Ms. Karen says solution-focused approach to healing. And I think it's interesting in some of the situations, even with Brother Arbery, he was in some way defending himself, right? Like they came at him and jogging. Right. If people say he wasn't jogging, either way, he became defensive because he wanted to preserve his life. And it seems like in white communities, if you're defending yourself, like I'm just gonna shoot you because you can't fight. Something is happening. You can't fight, so you kill us. And along with that situation, most people were just now starting to talk about this situation. It happened in March, but Breonna Taylor, she was 26, murdered in her home in Kentucky. They was at the wrong house, and apparently, you know, if you read articles, the person they were looking for was getting mail there, so they thought that he was here. But still, they shot 22 times, shot her 8 times. Her boyfriend did a shot because, again, you're in my house. And so how do we kind of support her family, or say her name? Like, what about that situation? How are y'all feeling? You know how does that affect our mental health when we keep seeing, first of all, we should stop watching the videos, but how does that affect our mental health when we see these killings and we're jogging and protesting?
I think we have to put them in proper context, right? We have to put them in context, right? Mm-hmm. So if we're looking at it on social media or through the regular media, right, it's not entertaining, right? But we have to put it in context. And again, it's an opportunity for us to organize, right? Mm-hmm. So when we see these things, right, we are already organizing as a people, right? We're not reacting. We're taking action about what we see, right? So I don't necessarily have a television. I don't get, you know, when I see these type of things, of course it bothers me, and I have an emotional response. But when I sit back and I process it, now it's time for me to do the work to actually have a better response than just go running out having an emotional tangent, right? So I don't want to be out here just doing something erratic, right? I want to have a calculated response.
Jones, I want to bring you in a little bit about that. Like, how does that, us watching all of this or hearing about it, how does that affect our mental health?
I really think that it can put us in a funk. I know that it's probably one of the most unclinical way to say it, but I really think that it can have a downing effect on just our day to day, to continue to see people that look like us that are murdered. And so I think that you have to, and I'm going to agree with Sincere, you know, you have to put it into context and do what you have to do for your own mental health. So that might mean that you might not watch the video. That doesn't mean that you don't have to organize and that you don't have to speak out, but it might look different. But I'm actually going to take this a step like to the side if I can, because I saw a meme that said, or not a meme, but a message on Twitter that said, at this point, white friends, what are you going to do? How are you teaching your children not to kill my son, not to kill my black child?
I saw that.
And I think about that and I wonder that, because what are we teaching our children in school so that they know about diversity, so that they know about equity? And I know that everybody is not going to get that education. But I think that I'm going back to the social emotional learning piece. I'm going back to the ideas and talks about equity and equality and race studies and things like that in school, and how important it is to be exposed and involved in activities and cultures that don't look like yours, and celebrate cultures that don't look like yours, so that we can have a more diverse and accepting culture within, and I'm going to speak specifically for the educational setting, so that maybe we are dropping nuggets, dropping gems, so that when these people get older, when these little people get older, they're not in the mindset of that Black person is a threat to me, or that Black person doesn't look like they belong in this community, you know? And I know that for a lot of people, we are past that point, you know? But I think that the conversation starts very, very young. And I also feel like in some spaces, it's like jobs. What are you doing to make sure that you're having a discussion about equity? What are you doing to talk about those difficult conversations about your unconscious bias, right? I think that those are important things. And I think until the right people, and even not the right people, like until people are at the table to discuss those things and call those out, I think that we have some work to do, but I do feel like it is happening, maybe not at the speed that we want, but I feel like those are important things that have to happen.
Right. So we're having these conversations, like we have a lot of conversations, not just ABSW, it's Black organizations across the country having different conversations about what we're talking about. I just want it to all come together, and we come together and be able to actually do something about it. There's a lot of comments that are happening about, because it can go in so many different directions. Mike King, did you want to talk any more about how it's affecting our mental health when we repost the videos? I know I do not repost videos, but how does it affect? And you have a son, and Sincere, you're a father as well. How is it affecting our mental health when we're watching these videos over and over?
Well, the father in me makes me want to teach my son to be able to love himself, love his culture, love his heritage, but also know how to code switch in order to survive. When we talked about self-defense earlier and all of the physical, from martial arts to physical ways you use your hands, I'm trying to teach him how to use this brain right here to be your first best weapon, your first and your best weapon, and everything else is just added on to your whole and just your whole being. I think when we see these situations, we do tend to, a lot of times, either people you get angry and organized, or sometimes people just may feel more marginalized, more detached from the American dream that we're supposed to have, more further from the 40 acres and the mule that. And it's something that, like Sincere mentioned earlier about personally planning on how you want to address moving forward for our culture and your family and purpose. Then also, like what you said too, Christy, like bringing multiple organizations together to come as a conglomerate to continue to move forward, and not set ourselves back in civil rights, not set ourselves back. Bringing a conversations like this.
Yeah.
Teaching the young people, teaching working with the adults who are in the here and now, and being a vital support system and for people that have families that they need to take care of, so they can utilize their passion and talents and skills, to keep struggle, to move through struggle, and to keep fighting the power.
Right.
So that it's important that we continue to sharing can cause trauma.
Yes.
Damn sure won't forget, and it can light that fire to get people to bust moving to organize.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. Sincere, did you want to talk about being a father?
So I just wanted to say, I think it provides another opportunity for our families to really talk more about our history, right? And not just from Emmett Till, but from people who also fought back, right? So while there's situations like the Emmett Till, things of that nature, but there are a bunch of Africans who also fought back and were successful in their fighting, right? So we need to talk about those stories as well, right? There were slave revolts. Not every person was willingly going into slavery as if they wanted this, right? They fought back. And there's always going to be a level of resistance, right? So we need to have these conversations with our children so that they don't grow up thinking that we just wholly accepted this. That's not the case, right? We fought back and we were resistant, and we're still expressing that resistance right now. So.
Right. So this is a good conversation. We're going to wrap it all up and bring it back together about mental health. And if you all can, again, this is good conversation. I wanted to share when we were talking about therapy for Black girls. It's other organizations called Black Therapists Rock and Clinicians of Color. So folks that are watching and you've been thinking about going to therapy, not really sure, there are so many resources out there that you can go to Google and find your Black therapist in your area. So my Black social work friends, can y'all talk about, we kind of talked about it a little earlier about how you've maintained your self-care. Can you all share some tips as if you were giving a PD to other social workers and counselors? Let's each person, Dion, we're going to start with you. Let's just share out some tips for mental health awareness and wellness.
Okay. Hopefully it's not too much feedback.
It's okay. It's good now. It's good.
Okay. So some things that I would recommend for people to, again, just use to uplift their spirits, going out for a walk. Some people have bought pets, recently, taking care of a plant, gardening, simple things you can do, coloring, drawing. A lot of times people really don't, think about the small things, painting your nails, just something that you can do right inside the house. I've been doing a lot more cooking. I don't know how healthy that is for, constantly cooking, but that's something that, I've been doing. Music is definitely something that lifts your spirit, lifts your soul. A lot of people exercise. So you have to find what's right for you. And just, again, the yoga. I know that a lot of times people watch TV, the Netflix series and things like that. Sometimes you really just have to get away, unplug. Whatever is best for you, whatever gives you that peace is something that, and it can be something, like I said, just as small as just sitting in a quiet room, looking outside, looking at the nature. Those are a lot of things that you can do to kind of, lift your spirits, because, this is definitely a time where we go back and forth in how our moods are.
Right. Thank you, Miss Dion. We're gonna go to Fallon and then King and then Sincere.
I'm gonna say first, so like I always probably say, if anybody knows me, check yourself first. Secure your oxygen mask first, and understanding what that means for yourself. So Dion touched on a lot of great things, a lot of physical activity, getting outside, cooking, baking. But I would even say like being in a space of gratitude, like almost being in a growth mindset to say, like, despite being in COVID, what have I accomplished? And if that is simply, I'm getting up every day and I am still breathing, like that is something to be thankful for. And so something that I would probably add is maybe you want to get a shoebox, or maybe you want to get a jar or a mug and name it like the good news jar. And maybe once a day, despite everything that's going on in COVID, you are able to capture the good things that have happened to you during this quarantine. It can be for a week, it could be for a month, it could be for 2 weeks, but then maybe during the end or whatever time limit you set for yourself, open up that good news jar and be able to count all of the blessings, literally, and I'm not saying like literally, but look back on all the things that were good moments, bright spots during this time. I would also say, and a lot of my students actually hit me to this. I came out of Howard when like apps were just starting to be a thing. So the Headspace app for meditation, the Long Walk app, if you're a journaling person and you don't know like what to journal, but you want a guided journal entry, that's a great thing. Something that I do with my schools is like quarantine bingo. And they have this thing called Quingo online where it's many different bingo boards, but like things that you might have experienced during quarantine. So maybe it's like, mail that to your pen pal or do that over the House Party app. And if you don't have an iPhone, all phone users can use the House Party app and connect. But just things like that, like counting your blessings, being in a space of gratitude when you can. Understanding that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to have some anxiety right now. But again, being able to tap back into your own mental health and happiness, and maybe, checking off one thing a day that makes you happy, because guess what? After 7 days, you did 7 things that made you happy in that time, if nothing else.
Thank you, Jones. That was good. King?
Well, I would say focus on being productive and not busy. And it's a difference. And some of the ways that I do that is planning my day the night before. That's one thing. I don't use a to-do list, because you have a bunch of little sticky notes, everything I need to do this, do that. Right. To-do lists can be overwhelming. So what I do is put it on my calendar. Like, so tomorrow I may put on the calendar the time that I'm going to do yoga. Tomorrow I'll put on the calendar the time that I would do research, or the time that I work on my project. And once I get it done within that time frame, I find that helps me working on being productive. And then you see that, hey, at the end of the day, you produced a certain amount of things that you've accomplished. You will feel good about yourself. So that's what I suggest.
Awesome. Those are good. Thank you. Sincere?
So one of the things I think I said this earlier, exercise is our friend, right? So we need to find exercise regimens that work for us. I heard your sister mention earlier, she had a challenge that she was into. Me and my coworkers have a challenge that we're doing right now, 100 push-ups a day, right? So we do that, and we have to complete that by the end of the day. Also, I started like 5 book clubs, right? So we're reading books, right? And we're meeting on Zoom, and we're discussing those books. So the conversation is relevant, like in terms of us finding history books, right? So one of the books that we're reading is Brainwash, right? We're reading that. Another book we're reading is called My Grandmother's Hands, right? So these are all books that we're reading and participating into for our book club. Also, in terms of eating, right, I encourage people, water is our best friend also, right? So more water in your diet, right? Definitely having, soda and stuff can definitely lead to other health issues, right? So we want to come out of this thing healthier than we were, right? So water is our friend, breathing is our friend, right? Exercise is our friend, reading is our friend, right? So we want to do all these healthy things. Like the brother said, yoga is our friend, right? But we don't want to come out of this depressed and anxious. We want to come out of this as warriors, right? We want to be better, right? We want to be stronger. We want to be able to model that for our families, for our children. When we return back to work, we're modeling that for our teachers and everyone around us, right? So they're looking at us like, well, what did you do? How are you, how are you managing? I'm great, right?
Yeah.
And this is things that I did that we're encouraging you to do to continue on, right? So we gotta really put some work together, do some work, and organize, right? That's just my suggestion in terms of how we managing during this COVID.
Absolutely. Water, journal, walk, exercise, everything they said, guys, that's what we should do. And especially during this time of COVID where any cough can seem like, oh my gosh, what just happened? So we have to take care of ourselves. And just on the fun side, to kind of end it up, unless you all have some things that you want to say, those have definitely been some great tips and conversation. What are we binge watching? What are you watching on Netflix, Hulu, or whatever? Fowler will go first. Go ahead, so we can get some ideas out there. What you watching?
So actually, I was watching Money Heist, and it was like so intense for me that like I can only watch a few episodes at a time because it just brought me that much anxiety. Like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But a great series that I would recommend is Unorthodox. It's only a 4-part series, so about 4 hours in your day. And it talks about a Hasidic Jewish young woman that goes through being able to break away from her upbringing and what she goes through and kind of liberating and empowering herself. So I would definitely recommend that. That's what me and a lot of my girls watched, amongst other things. But Unorthodox, I would really say that that's a good one.
Cool. Thank you. Anybody, what y'all watching?
Little Fires Everywhere. That was a good one. And All American. Those were 2 good ones.
Yeah,
good.
I just got caught up with Black Monday from Showtime with Don Cheadle. I admit I like to watch Insecure as well.
It's okay. Men are watching it.
That's right. It's okay.
Yeah. Sincere. Sincere, what are you watching?
I'm not watching anything.
Oh yeah, you don't have TV.
Yeah, I have television. It's like that. So I'm not watching anything. But I definitely spend time, like I said, more time with family and friends. So
cool. I watched Tiger King. I think it's crazy. I think Black people just watch Tiger King. Like, that ain't us.
I watched it.
I like Working Moms, and their new season came out, and I think I watched it in 2 days. Working Moms. You can go back and watch Good Girls. I know somebody else. It's like 2 years old. They watch 7 Seconds. I don't really have Hulu. I really want to watch Little Fires Everywhere. But yeah, let's binge watch. And I haven't seen Secure. But just to wrap it up, so again, this is Association of Black Social Workers Metro DC chapter. If you want to get involved, you can join us or look us up online at abswmetrodcchapter.org. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, clearly, and Twitter, and it's all ABSW Metro DC. And with me today are literally my friends and colleagues, Mike King Jr., Sincere, Dion, I call her Jones. This has been fun, you all. Do y'all have any last words that you want to talk about? Anything mental health, some short tidbits as we close out?
Therapy is okay.
Yeah.
It is okay. I'll leave it at that. Therapy is okay. Yeah. More people probably are involved in therapy than you think. even if you don't feel like there's a connection that you have, just know yourself, right? And if you need help, there are therapists out there that look like you, and people out there that look like you that go to therapy. Therapy is okay. Therapy's okay.
Therapy's okay. Anybody else? One word, one-liners? You got it?
Yeah, stay safe.
Wait, that was all y'all at one time. King, go ahead.
Just stay safe, stay active, stay productive.
Sincere?
Stay on the case to uplift the race.
Thank you.
And love yourself so that you can love others.
Oh,
hey.
Love yourself so you can love others. Social workers, we have to take care of ourselves first before we care for others. So listen, we have a lot of viewers today. Thank you all, viewers, friends, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Remember to vote, get your census done, and drink water and be well. Love on yourself. Thank you all.
Peace.
Well, thank you, Christy.
Thanks, love.
Thank you.
Yeah.